Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to discuss the server-side encryption key management service for S3. Before we delve deep into this video, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel, share, like, any comment, any questions you don't understand, put it in the comment section and I'll be glad to answer you. Now in today's video, like I mentioned before, you are going to discuss server-side encryption key management system service. By default, when you upload an object or a file into an S3 bucket, AWS encrypts this particular file because it is data which is resting on S3. So AWS will encrypt it. The encryption that it uses is called the SSE S3. Okay, meaning that it is server-side encryption S3. This is just the name they've given to it. What it means is that it is AWS who manages both the key and the encryption. For you, the user, you have no part to play in this. So you can't rotate the keys. You cannot apply permissions and policies onto it. So as a way to give users more control over the keys, we will use the SSE KMS server-side encryption key management service. Now when you talk of SSE key management service, what it means is that it is an AWS service. KMS is an AWS service. It's a service that combines secure and highly hardware and software to provide what key management system for your files in S3. Okay, so this is just a service that basically manages key, okay, on your behalf, the keys for encryption. Now the Key KMS basically has two functions. One, it gives more flexibility to users. What this means is that users can now create, they can delete, they can modify, they can rotate KMS keys. Okay. So what the key management does is that it gives you the flexibility to create, to delete, to modify, to rotate, to enable and to disable any key that is generated by the key management service. Now the second thing is that you can apply policies, or you can define policies. You can define policies that control how and who to use KMS keys. Now with the KMS, what it does is that you now have the opportunity or the control to define policies on how to use it and who to use the keys. Now when you don't apply KMS and you use the default AWS encryption, which is the SSE S3, what it does is any user within the account can have access to a particular bucket. Okay, we are going to show that in the demo. So this is basically about KMS. Now let's dive into the demo. Now in the demo, this is the root user. Okay, we have the root user. I have created two new users. I have created users Mary and Tony. If you don't know how to create users, please check my video in the description box, or I'll put a link up in the top right corner for you to watch that video. So I have granted Mary permission, full S3 permissions. Okay, I have also granted the same permission to Tony. is also having S3 access. Now let's go ahead and create a bucket and see what happens. Okay, so I go up to type S3. Click on create bucket. I've also made a video on how to create an S3 bucket into detail, so check it up in the description box, or you'll find it on the top right corner. Okay, so we are going to create our bucket. We name it Cloud Tech with Sam. When it comes to the encryption side, we could straight away go to server-side encryption with Key Management Service. But in this case, we are going to create the bucket first, and then we come and edit it. Okay, so by default, AWS will encrypt your files using the SSE S3. So we go ahead and create our bucket. Okay, so inside our bucket, we are going to upload a file into that bucket. Click on add files. Then we upload our file into the bucket. Okay, so we are going to test if the users could have access to it. Now let's go to my Safari, where I'm accessing Mary, using Mary's account as an IAM user on the Safari. So let's go to S3 and check whether she can be able to have access to this particular file we have uploaded. Okay, so Mary has access to this bucket, and she has access to this file, so she can be able to view this particular file. This is made possible because AWS is managing the encryption and decryption on our behalf using the default encryption, which is the SSE server-side encryption S3. Now let's test with Tony. He is also logged in using the Mozilla or Firefox browser. So let's go to, this is Tony. This is an IAM user, Tony. Okay, so Tony also has access to the bucket. Let's check whether he can be able to view or download the file. So Tony is able to also view or download the file. Okay, so there's no issues with that. Now let's go back to the root account and now apply the key management service keys to our S3 bucket. So we go back to bucket, we click on that, we open our bucket. Now we go to properties. Now when you go to properties, you scroll down to where we have the encryption, default encryption. Now, like I made mention, it will always be defaulted to Amazon S3 managed keys, okay, which is the SSE S3, which is the default for every bucket that you create. AWS encrypt that for you free of charge. So we click on edit. We now choose the server-side encryption with AWS Key Management Service keys, 𝐓𝐷𝐿. Okay, now what that is, it basically has the same functions as the S3, but this time the root master key generation, which is the data key, is transferred. The delegation, it transfers this particular delegation to the key management system to be managing the generation of the keys. Basically, that is it. So when you click on the server side, it now opens up for you to choose. So AWS key, SMS key, we now choose from, if you have an existing one, fine, but this one we are going to enter a new one. So we click on create a KMS key. Okay, so we choose the symmetric type, key type. So this indicates that a single key can be used for encryption and decryption. So just one key is used for the same as encryption and is used to decrypt at the same time. Okay, so we leave the default at symmetric. We leave this one encrypt and decrypt. Now you click on next. Now let's check the advanced option. Basically, you leave everything the same. No need for that. We are in a single region. No need for changes. So leave it the same. You click on next. Now it's telling us to give an alias name. So let's say KMS C Cloud Tech with Sam. KMS Cloud Tech with Sam. You can give it a description. So we are done with the description. Then we move to next. Here it is giving us the key administrators. What this means is that when you read, say choose the IAM users and roles who can administer this key through API. So in this case, it is telling us to grant them administrative permission so that they can be able to use it for API calls. We don't want this function for now, so we'll just skip this particular function. We go to next. Now this is where we want them to use. So we say select IAM users and roles that can use KMS in cryptographic operation. Now this is where we want to define policies. We want to control whoever has access to our S3 bucket or S3 files. So in this case, I'm going to make Mary have access to the files, whilst I will not grant that to Tony. So I will choose Mary, then I go to next. This is just a review, the policy if you want to edit. Now I go to finish. Okay, so now that we are done with our key generation, we click on the alias and then we copy the ARN. Okay, so click on copy. Now you come back to your S3 bucket properties. Okay, then you paste the ARN in here. So you paste the ARN, then you go to save changes. Okay, so when you go to save changes, let's go back to our bucket. Okay, so let's delete this one first. Okay, now let's upload again that same file or a different file. So we are now going to upload two files. Then we click on upload. Okay, so now let's test with both users, Mary and then Tony. So let's go to our Safari. You need to refresh it. So click on open. Okay, so Mary is able to view, meaning that she has the keys to decrypt this particular file. Click on open. Okay, so it's working fine. Now let's go to Tony. Let's refresh it. So let's open this file. Okay, so now it's giving us an error message saying that Tony is not authorized to perform decrypt on resources, even though Tony has full S3 permissions. Okay, full S3 access, but then we are using KMS to restrict access to the bucket, files in the buckets. Okay, so this one too cannot be opened. So in effect, what it tells is that maybe you may be in an organization, but there are some files you may not want others to have access to. You can use the SSE KMS, that's the Key Management Service, to apply policies or control whoever has access, and then how you want them to access this particular file. So if this video has been of value to you, please subscribe to our channel, like our videos, comment, ask questions, anything you want, I will be able to answer. See you in the next video.